everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show.
Should I start the episode?
Yeah, do it.
Alright. Well, welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, everybody. This episode brought to Kyle sending Andy gifts in which he laughs uncontrollably at.
I'm sorry, Disney World is funny.
Anyway, because I'm sure they're busy laughing, JD and Kyle and Andy are here as well.
Hey, I could have introduced myself.
Could you really?
Yes, I could. I could have, but
all right,
no, you don't believe in me to do anything. I don't want to know.
Alright, fine.
Look at more Disney World.
Fine. Well, while they do that, I want to thank everyone who's been flocking to our podcast as of late. I guess our Instagram's been doing pretty well, and we've been getting a lot more followers on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook, I think, but I guess that's a lot.
We did get 2 more, and you know what? If we reach 100, you know what happens?
Pizza party?
Disney World!
Jesus Christ. But a lot of that is thanks to Andy, who's been taking up the social media torch, because I'm lazy. If at the end of this episode you like us laughing uncontrollably about things that are not probably going to be explained very well,
I'm sure anybody listening to this has looked up the words Disney and World.
Alright, well there you go. But please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please share these episodes with your friends, because that'd be super cool.
The Instagram and the Twitter and all the good social media.
Yeah, and Andy, Kyle, and I have been doing Halloween draw challenges all month and keeping up with that pretty regularly. So make sure you follow our social medias to keep up with that if you'd like, because I think we're all passable artists, so it's something. But anyway, it's October, so we're going to be talking about Halloween stuff all month, and
we're not talking softball?
Or Oktoberfest? That's spelled with a K.
Yes, Kyle, I took like 5 or 6 years of German in school, of which I remember almost
Jawohl, mein Führer.
There you go.
Damn.
I don't know, but I guess this week
we're talking about spooky stuff.
Spooky stop motion stuff.
Ooh.
So we've gathered a few things stop motion wise that are Halloween related that are, I guess, near and dear to our heart, maybe.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's stop motion.
We enjoy in some capacity, at least.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right.
They're worth checking out, I would say.
Okay, that's fair. So,
not as much fun as Disney.
God damn it! Are you just gonna do this for the entire hour?
No, I got it out of my system. Okay, there. I'm sorry, JD. I won't have fun
until the last second where Kyle's gonna post another one.
Okay, I don't have my Skype window open.
All right. So, yeah, we've got a couple stop motion things we'd like to talk about. Why don't you guys start with the one you guys watched that I didn't?
Yeah,
because we're professionals.
Because I have a lot of things.
Because you had time to watch Gravity Falls, but you couldn't have enough time to watch this.
That takes 20 minutes out of my day, and my girlfriend wants to watch that too. So.
Well, we're not. I don't know. I have some negative words to say about this particular piece, but we're talking about Mad Monster Party.
What is
That's
Mad
not
Monster
how it's
Party?
pronounced.
Is it
It's pronounced Mad Monster Party.
Oh, that's right, but only in certain capacity. On a lot of pages, there's no question mark at the end of it. I got very confused when I watched when I actually watched it. I was like, "Am I sure what this is?"
I'm never sure of anything.
No, you might actually appreciate this movie. It's just as confused as you are.
All right, well, explain to the good people what Mad Monster Party is.
Well, Kyle, you did all your research on this. I think you should field this one.
So, this was rockin' bass, rockin'.
Kyle, we had an entire discussion before this how to pronounce Rankin Bass.
I wouldn't say it was
So
a discussion, but okay.
So this was Franken Bass's
Rankin
show.
Rankin Bass?
You know, the guys who did Rudolph and Santa and whatever bullshit.
All them good Christmas stuff that we'll get to in December.
I think they did an Easter Bunny one. But anyways.
They did. It was terrifying.
So they did a Halloween one, and it's not very well known. Kind of for good reason, but anyways, I didn't know this one existed. My girlfriend took me to a concert a couple years back, and it was for Voltaire, if anybody knows who that is.
I sadly do not, but with a name like that, I feel like I should.
So there's this guy called Aurelio Voltaire, if I'm pronouncing
Wait, is this
that right.
the guy that made out with you?
No, he kissed me.
Oh.
But
Doesn't instantly mean making out.
anyways,
Yep.
I know, right? Jesus fuck.
Yep.
Anyways, so there's this guy called Aurelio Voltaire, and he writes music, and he's this really cool gypsy dude. And anybody would know him. He did the Brain song from Billy and Mandy, and he did a few other songs. But anyways, so I was at this goth bar because that's where these things happen.
Because, you know, what else do you do in California?
Oh, yeah, you go to goth bars, you hang out. So, oh fuck, this place was like bondage up the ass. Like, holy shit.
So that episode of American Dad was 100% spot on?
Yes. So, like, I was hanging out at this bar, and there's people like fucking nipple rings and crazy shit, exposed chests. But anyways, I'm at this bar, and then the TV's playing this weird puppet shit, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I watched it, completely forgot about it. And then we were doing a Halloween show, and I was like, oh, hey, we should do this, because nobody really knows about it.
It's become a bit of a cult classic, apparently. That probably explains why it was going on in your goth bar, your goth watering hole.
Is it because it's probably home to a cult?
Maybe.
I don't know.
So anyways, so this is Mad Monster Party with a question mark, where you have to pronounce it like a question. Anyways, it's kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot of history behind it. Boris Karloff was doing Victor von Frankenstein's voice, the doctor this time. And there's some sort of voice cast. The only ones I know is Boris Karloff and fucking Phyllis Dillard, who is very annoying.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like her whole thing.
It's her thing, but it's like, fuck. I don't know if it was that.
Phyllis Dillard plays the bride of the monster.
and she laughs at everything. She laughs at her own jokes. How unfunny.
She's
But
Kyle, yeah.
But anyways, so Harvey Kurtzman did the script for this movie, which I think is super cool because I'm a Mad Magazine fan, and he like really made it something. He made it kind of whatever. I want to say he's the creator of like Lena the Hyena and stuff, right? He does like the super ugly artwork.
I wouldn't know.
Well, anyways, so Harvey Kurtzman penned the script, which is really incredible. Because the movie, it feels like just a giant animated Mad comic strip.
Yeah, when you said when you told me about that, I had to think about it, and you're kind of spot on. Like,
it's like
I kind of went into it very minimalist.
It's like each scene, there's a setup, a punchline, or a setup, joke, punchline, and it just goes on like that, and then the scene ends. And I think that's cool. And they have, I guess Jack Davis designed a lot of the characters for it, and Jack Davis was very popular around the time. He did a lot of horror comics. I guess this is around when comic censorship was really bad, and horror comics and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. But he was doing like Tales from the Crypt. He was doing different
All
stuff
those
like
old EC comics, like Vault of Horror, stuff like that.
Yeah, he's crazy good artist, so it's really cool to see that he's working on this too.
Yeah, aesthetically, the movie was really, like, good. Like, I really enjoyed a lot of the character designs, even though it was in the... Then again, that's kind of like their thing with Rankin Boss or whatever. You know, they have that weird kind of, like, herky-jerky kind of style.
And it was weird, because watching it, I'm like, fuck, Hotel Transylvania, like, ripped off a lot of shit from this movie. There's zombie bellhops and stuff, and, like...
There's a guy doing a Peter Lorre impression.
I mean, anytime you do a monster thing, someone has to do a Peter Lorre impression.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a law or something.
That is quite true.
Boo Berry is like a Peter Lorre impression, I think.
Freaking Barry is Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Callback references.
Speaking of which...
Who's the vampire? Is it like...
Well, Bela Lugosi was kind of, yeah, like they... Actually, I don't know. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up. So they're obviously they're kind of referencing the Universal monsters because, you know, you have the Wolfman, and all that. But, I don't know, something about Dracula's voice kind of threw me off because he almost kind of sounded like Rodney Dangerfield. Like, if he said no respect, I would have lost it because it would have been so funny because he was trying to do the guy doing his voice was trying to do Bela Lugosi, but, like, messed it up. It's kind of like how if I tried to do an Irish accent, it turns into Scottish.
Sounds about right.
I mean, it's just like, it's weird. It's a really imaginative movie. Like, I thought it was kind of neat how it had, like, the whole subplot, like, a plot to it. It's just an hour and a half long, and it's like, was Rudolph or any of those other things they did that long?
I don't think so.
Not usually. I think Rudolph's like maybe 20 minutes.
I don't know about 20 minutes, but I mean, it definitely seems. Then again, it just seems like it's much better paced.
So like the quick story around it is Victor von Frankenstein, the big scientist, is I guess the ruler of these monsters. He created life, and then he's going with creating death, or he's creating the form of destruction as far as life into. He makes a crow bomb. It's like a nuclear explosion. But anyways, he decides to step down from being evil and everything. He's a successor. Calls his nephew over. The monsters get jealous, try to kill him, and that's kind of how the story goes. And the ending's kind of pulled out of their ass, which we all agree. The
ending was, they lost ideas, and all sorts of, like Kyle was saying, you know, wacky hijinks ensues with, you know, what was his name? What was the name of the nephew?
I already forgot, man.
I don't know.
Freddy.
I just fucking hated that character. Most annoying, whiny nerd ever.
It's like some Woody Allen looking bitch.
Yeah. Oh my god, he really did look like he acted like Woody Allen. Like he was always sneezing and always coughing, and I don't know. It's like yeah, like they wanted to make you think he's like, oh, you know, he's just kind of this goofy lummox, but really he's just kind of a moron.
Yeah. Trying to figure out here. But anyways, I think both me and Andy thought the character was like super annoying as fuck, and maybe it was because he's a giant nerd or something.
It's not even that. The voice was annoying. His personality really wasn't that likable. Like he was not a very good protagonist, even in like the goofy, like it's a goofy kind of kids movie sort of thing. Like he just was not someone I wanted to see more of the monsters just being the monsters.
Yeah,
I really didn't care about that.
His name was Felix Flankin.
That's it.
That's a very Mad Magazine where they that the two words or something have the same.
Yeah, there you go. Sprinkle some English lit on there.
Yeah, I learned something from school.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's fun. It's just there's a lot of
worth watching. Yeah, I would say it's worth watching. Check it out. If not, it's just like, you know, it's one of the. If you watch Rudolph and stuff like that around the Christmas season, You deserve to at least check this out because it's obviously the same team, same production. I can't say I see myself going back to watch it anytime soon. I don't know. It's an hour and a half long, and it starts off really strong with like a really good theme song, and they mimic the opening of they mimic the monster creation scene in Frankenstein. It's awesome because it's Boris Karloff doing a voice of a character who's basically him, but it just did not have enough going on, and Phyllis Diller got annoying real fast.
It's weird because it's one of those period pieces. I think it's like it's 60s, or it's like Quasimodo and Dr. Jekyll were considered big horror movie people, and it's
they're part of the Universal like that because Hunchback of Notre Dame, that was Lon Chaney Sr.'s last movie. And that was like the last silent movie that I think Universal really did. So, I mean, the Hunchback, he's not like the big deal now. He's actually seen more as like I think a Disney character now.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it was kind of cool that they really did kind of go through the entire Universal like stable of horror icons because you had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was a big deal at the time. Well, I mean, it was considered one of Universal's big movies. The Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon. That is the one design I did not like.
No.
Because the Gill-Man is my favorite Universal monster, and it was just a very boring design. It just
kind of just looked like a sea monster, purple sea monster, really.
Yeah, like he was really forgettable, and that really upsets me because I love the creature. I'm sitting next to the pinball machine right now.
The one thing that made me laugh, though, was they have this big fight, and the Invisible Man gets a pie thrown in his face, and he actually has a face, and they're like, Jesus, you're ugly. No wonder you're invisible. And that was pretty funny.
No, there are some good jokes in there. I mean, there are some scenes that are genuinely funny. It's just it takes so long to get to them.
Well, there's songs, which theme song's pretty cool, but there's like the Skeleton Man
song.
Yeah, the Phyllis Diller song, the skeleton one, that's not really needed. And then they kind of show every monster sleeping, and it's like they don't really need to show that at all.
Honestly, I think my favorite scene in the whole movie was the scene when they're getting on the boat. Like it's kind of like the monster introduction scene when they're getting on the boat to get to Dr. Frankenstein's island, and these two ship hands are kind of just struggling with trying to grasp that there are these monsters. Like Dr. Jekyll comes out of nowhere and turns into Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
And sneaks on. The Hunchback comes out of nowhere and he lifts the mummy's sarcophagus, and the boat scene is fun, but if the whole movie was more like that would have been better.
I love those characters too, the ship hand and the captain.
Oh yeah, they were not even really they really weren't necessary to the plot in a sense, but they were probably two of the most memorable characters in that movie. So I don't know. I guess we don't want to take up too much time on Mad Monster Party, but it was just kind of interesting because we both. It's weird. I consider it very similar to a Bakshi movie because I know Bakshi movies have a tendency. I think we discussed this slightly on the news show, or at least I thought we talked about it. But Bakshi movies have a tendency to kind of go in weird directions and drag, but there's something weirdly appealing about them. So I would say for everyone to at least watch it once, if not just to kind of take in the more of that delightful style that Rankin Bass has always done. It's not terrible.
All right. Yeah, it's not a bad movie by any sense, but it's still kinda,
it's definitely what I would say the weakest out of any of the movies we're going to talk about.
Oh, the next one.
Oh my God, JD is here.
Sorry. I didn't drift off. I promise. So. Yeah.
Next one.
Next one.
What's on the docket?
This one, I'm almost certain everyone listening to this show has seen this movie, but I feel we can give our own opinions, but early '90s, Tim Burton was at his height of popularity, I suppose, and
He had a career outside of working with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
I think it's before Johnny Depp.
It was. Well, no way, because Edward Scissorhands. But then again, this is before Johnny Depp became his go-to, like, for every conceivable thing, and he had to put his wife into everything.
They're divorced now.
Oh, really?
I thought they were.
Is Johnny Depp their child stuck in the middle?
Yeah. He gets
I love the
he
joke.
gets 2 Christmases now.
It's like, okay, at the
2
divorce, who gets
weird
Johnny Depp?
Christmases. 2 bizarre, weird Christmases. I would not want gifts from either of them.
God.
But anyway.
And if it's anything like this movie, but
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has seen Nightmare Before Christmas.
What's that? I'm kidding.
Let's say, Andy, I know you've seen this.
Well, yeah, I saw it in
everyone's seen
theaters,
it.
I'm proud to say.
I saw it in theaters when they re-released it in 3D a couple of years ago.
I did not bother with that, surprisingly. I saw it when it first came out.
We saw it because there was literally nothing else out, and I think we just kind of ended up there. But anyway, contrary to popular belief, Tim Burton did not actually direct this movie. Henry Selick did, and I'm one of those people who gets bothered when people like, oh, I love Tim Burton movies. Like, yes, he like.
Yeah, but his name is attached to it, though. It's Tim Burton.
Well, it does have that Tim Burton feel to it.
And I will say, I have a number of friends who, granted, are not really into animation all that much, but who think every stop-motion animated movie is done by Tim Burton. Like, they think Laika... They think Laika's movies are done by Tim Burton. It's like, Tim Burton is not the only one who does stop-motion.
Yeah, that's kind of insulting because...
I know, I kind of get a little defensive about it. It's like...
Well, it's screw it. We might as well bring up... If we're going to talk about Laika, we might as well kind of do like a twofer here and bring up the other big movie, which I think honestly ranks...
We'll get to Laika in a little bit.
I mean, if we're going to compare them.
I'd rather talk about Paranorman in a bigger capacity. So
Okay.
I really like that movie. But anyway, if for God forbid you have not seen Nightmare Before Christmas at this point, it's basically like Jack
I don't see how you could have.
But anyway, like Jack Skellington is king of Halloween Town, decides he's bored and wants to take over Christmas. But so it's like you can watch.
It wasn't like that.
I mean, he's like he wants more out of life.
No, he felt like he's every year Halloween he was kind of stuck in a rut.
That's what I said. He got bored.
Yeah, but then you said he goes and takes over Christmas. More
he
so like
does.
Kind of, but it wasn't like he just like said, "Oh, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to go take over someone else's holiday."
No, he
stumbles upon it.
Yeah, because in that world, there's every holiday has like a different world. I guess it's kind of like a video game in that sense.
Now, as a kid, I thought it would have been really cool if there would have been sequels based on each holiday where he would go through a different door.
I want to see what I want to see what Kwanzaa would be like.
I want to see Kwanzaa Town.
I am genuinely curious what Kwanzaa Town would be like because it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
But
yeah,
being an adult now, that's a terrible idea. I don't want to see it.
But I don't like this movie is really odd to me because when I'm sure a lot of people when we're young we thought it was like a really good movie. It has some pretty good animation, because we're so used to 2D and like stop motion was kind of a new thing, at least for me at the experience, and I thought it was a unique idea. But the more I've watched it as I get older, I have a lot of kind of big issues with it. More since the fact that the story really is not all that strong, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, explain yourself.
I don't know. There's a lot of. I feel like a lot of the story is rushed. The whole wrap up with it is kind of it just kind of ends. The fact that Oogie Boogie is like they mention him offhand once, and somewhere towards the end of the movie is like, oh yeah, we need a villain for this movie. fuck it, make it Oogie Boogie, why not?
He's in the fucking theme song as the moon.
I know, but like
He's a shadow.
No,
He's
like
a shadow in the movie.
Yeah, he's in the theme song, and then his little minions mention him like once, and you don't see him till like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Like, I'll admit, I always, like, after I watched it as a kid, loved it, and I'm not gonna, like, I went back and I watched it a couple years ago, and I watched it actually at work a few days ago. I still like it. Like, I can still appreciate the story and everything behind it, because I kind of get that it's this sort of like a... But I always kind of wished more was gone into about Halloween Town's, like, layout and stuff like that. Like, what... So, there's the mayor... But then there's Jack Skellington.
Yeah, it's like, well,
and then there's the Mad Doctor, and like I don't know, like
he's kind of the celebrity though. I wouldn't.
He's like, yeah, that's how I always took it. Is like Jack is just kind of the celebrity where everyone just kind of flocks to him. He doesn't actually hold political power, but basically everyone just loves him so much they just let him do whatever he wants.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would have always I would love to see a movie that was I don't want to say maybe not a prequel, but I always thought it'd be cool if we got more stuff that kind of went into like just Halloween Town was is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Or was it just no? Because I'm thinking of the Disney.
they're both called Halloween Town.
Disney live action movie, but No, but like, you know, the town of Halloween, like I was always really interested in the like just the dynamics of that town. Like I don't know why. Like even as a kid, you know, I never got like that interested in like I just wanted to know like, man, what is like an average day like in Halloween?
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. If there's any
the 364 days.
Yeah, like, you know, like is every day literally the same, or you know, is this like the big celebration, or I really love the aesthetics of that movie a lot, and I really love all the character designs, because I think that's where the Tim Burton kind of appeal comes into. I like it still. And the music, of course, is fantastic.
That's Danny Elfman at his best.
Yeah, like I would honestly say that was Danny Elfman. Like it's funny because didn't he sing? He was the voice of Jack Skellington when he sang, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he did the singing.
Actually, one of my favorite 80s horror movies, I found this out a couple years back because I have his autograph. Not for me, but Chris Sarandon, I believe, from Fright Night, is the speaking voice for Jack Skellington.
Oh, shit.
I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure his name's Chris Sarandon, and I'm pretty sure it's him. I'll look that up in a bit, but if you guys have never watched Fright Night, please do.
I know of it.
I know they made a remake a couple years ago.
The remake is actually really good, too.
Doesn't it have David Tennant in it?
Was it David Tennant? Because if it was, I can't...
Wasn't he like the midnight host vampire hunter dude?
Well, in that one, he's he's like a stage magician, like Chris Angel, but...
Right.
The way I kind of compare the new Fright Night remake is that it's like it's a good enough movie to have stood on its own, but they had to use the Fright Night name to sell.
Yeah, David Tennant. David Tennant's in the new one, and let's see,
Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
he plays an amazing
Chris
sleazy
Sarandon.
man. Yeah, okay, it was Chris Sarandon because I just watched Fright Night not long ago. That's that's a family movie for us.
yeah.
But
like my.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, go on.
No. Well,
sorry.
My mom as a teenager, whatever, 80s, she was really into Oingo Boingo, and she loved it, went to concerts and stuff like that. I always thought that was kind of cool. And then my brother
did she have weird science parties?
No.
Man, wait, I shit all over my joke. I'll never do that again.
My brother kind of took over for that, so he became like the big Oingo Boingo Danny Elfman fan. Got into all his stuff. So I always thought that was cool. That's always been part of my childhood. I always like Nightmare Before Christmas, all that shit. I knew all the stupid trivia because I had family that was into it. But I always thought that was cool, like just the whole thing behind that. But what I was thinking was, like, I know the video game was released for PS2 for...
The sequel?
Yeah, and
Yeah, Oogie's Revenge. I forgot about that game
Yeah.
entirely, and I was really excited about it.
I played like the first level, and the boss fights were fun. It was just like,
It played like it looked like it played like
six.
Devil May Cry.
I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, like it was just like a very straightforward, like third-person action game, which sounds fine to me. I'm not gonna.
The boss fights were like almost Simon Says dance things, and I kind of dug that because it was like new shit. But I only got to play so much of it, and then we had to take it back. My brother would he would get games from GameFly and then burn them to a hard drive, and we would have them for a while. I thought that shit was so cool, but that was the only game that never worked, and I was pissed off. And since then, I haven't been able to find it. But anyways, I like the movie. It's fun. It's got the whole macabre thing. I really like the whole macabre thing. What pisses me off, though, and I hate to sound like a hipster, but when I was in middle school to high school, where it just had a giant popularity boost, it kind of always pissed me off.
Oh, Kyle, I'm very much with you. I had so many friends who were into basically anything Tim Burton shit out, and oh god.
I will have to agree as well. Like I remember, like when I remember when Nightmare Before Christmas first came out. I remember seeing it in theaters. I didn't want to go see it. Saw it, fell in love with it. We owned it on VHS. I'd watch it all the time. We had a bunch of the figures and stuff, and then it kind of passed. I still loved the movie. I still thought it was great. And then I just remember in high school hearing about this store called Hot Topic.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I just remember my mom would buy me like the Nintendo shirts that were pretty cool.
I think Hot Topic gets a bad rap because I go to Hot Topic and get T-shirts every now and then, and like a figure every now and then. Fine.
I'm wearing a shirt I got from Hot Topic right now. Like I don't blame the store because it's
blame
business.
The client base.
Yeah, because it was just really weird to go into Hot Topic and see Nightmare Before Christmas, but see it on like weird like bondage looking underwear.
Right.
Like it was really off-putting
to
me.
To preteens.
Yeah, and even then it was just I kind of feel like a lot of people missed the point of the movie.
Yeah, it's like, Tim Burton's so quirky, let's put all this stuff on merchandise.
Now, one more thing is, like, every year for around Halloween and Christmas, Disney redoes the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. Yeah, at Disneyland.
That's just going to be the title of this episode. It's going to be Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Completely misleading.
Anyway.
Yeah, they redo the Haunted Mansion and they make it all about the Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's so fucking cool, and I love it. It's just Disney's been raising their prices periodically. Like it seems every quarter they're raising their price, and it's just so fucked up. I don't want to go anymore. Shut the fuck up.
Sorry, you sent me that goddamn shirt.
I know, I need to buy that shirt. The cool thing about that, though, is they have this life-size Jack Skellington animatronic, and he's like 17 feet tall. He's fucking humongous, and he's crouching.
He's the scale?
Yeah, and he's crouching to say hi to you, and he's still fucking tall. It's really cool. But they always do a really good job. It's just, I can't afford going there. I don't know how any family can afford going there anymore.
Yeah, Disney World got expensive.
Disney World's always been expensive.
True.
I've never been.
I had a pass when I was, like, around 2009. I had a pass, I was updating it, and then they're like, nah, they made it too much. But anyways, about this, I like the movie. The art style's really great.
You can't look at anything in that movie and not think, yeah, this is good. At least in my opinion.
It's like a weird clash of Christmas and Halloween, and I don't know, the whole Christmas town, it's really weird to see it in that style, because it's very, I guess, rugged buzz, whatever. It's kind of that style-ish, and then the Halloween stuff is its own style in a sense too. So it's like a weird mash. But then they have the human world too, which even raises more questions. How the fuck humans are living, and then there's holiday worlds and shit.
Yeah.
How did they break that barrier?
The more I think about the plot of this movie, the more it just does not conceptually make sense. There's a lot of holes.
It's really weird, but you just gotta take it for what it is. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I approach the movie as if I'm a kid whenever I watch it, and I still really like it.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things I will still end up watching if it's on. I would say it deserves to be a classic. And the funny thing is, it's one of the few holiday movies that can go from being a Christmas movie to a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's dual purpose right there.
Yeah.
December ween.
Yeah. There is one last, I hate to be the nitpicky one for this, but just I want to know if you guys feel this way too. I always felt like the movie was way too short.
Watching it again, I can kind of agree, but I kind of understand that. I mean, you have to look at it from the way I would look at that in that sense, because I totally get what you're saying. It does seem like it's there and gone.
I know it's longer than 45 minutes, but it almost feels like it. When I saw it in the theater, the movie ended, and I looked down at my watch, I was like, shit, is it really been that less amount of a time?
I think the way I would look at it is because, I mean, there was a lot they were cramming in there, and I guess because they couldn't risk making it too long, because I'd have to imagine, this is before CGI and everything like that. I mean, that was probably a big gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for Touchstone at the time.
I guess I could see that.
I mean, remember, that wasn't Disney.
So Disney likes to claim it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they own it. I mean, but yeah, that was Touchstone Animation when it first came out, so, I mean, they were working on a budget, I would have, they made money, but I think they had to kind of just cram in as much as they could, and I think they did an admirable job of establishing, the mythos of that world in that condensed period of time, because, like you guys said, I mean, that's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the human world, then there's the fact that they accidentally kidnapped the Easter Bunny. I mean, what went on in that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But what happened in Easter World? And
I love how all the holidays are basically American holidays. So,
yeah.
No, there's another segment of the forest, I bet.
Yeah, I was like, is there ones for Middle Eastern holidays and for Japanese holidays? Are they
way too much into it,
right?
Yeah,
I'm sure
they are.
I'm thinking. It's the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make any sense.
I'm sure there is more to it.
It was really weird because when I went to France my first time, I was asking about that movie to my relatives. They had absolutely no clue what I was talking about. They had never heard about it. And then the second time I went, it seemed like there was a resurgence of it over there, and they actually had merchandise.
Huh.
So that's kind of fucking weird how that happened.
Is it kind of like how other countries will get 90s music now, and it'll seem cutting edge?
Probably. I'm not sure how that works.
You guys you guys listen to the Backstreet Boys? These guys are going to be fucking huge. But no, I'd say as a closer to that, I would say Nightmare Before Christmas has earned its spot in pop culture, but there are, of course, like anything...
Take it in moderation, please.
Yeah, there are just some aspects of it that shouldn't be as big as they are.
My, stupid favorite little trivia about it is they shoved Jack Skellington into James and the Giant Peach just for the fuck of it.
Oh, I thought that was...
That.
I thought it was really cool, because it was so quick. Yeah. I thought
Wasn't there a Donald Duck skeleton, too, on there or some shit? He's like a Donald pirate?
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, I should really watch that movie again.
So what's the next movie?
So, I figured to round out our trio of Halloween-esque stop motion films. We can
Well,
talk
think about it. We've kind of gone through the eras so far.
right. Yeah, now we're up to the modern era. With honestly, I could say this is probably reaching one of my favorite animated films in general. Like I need to rewatch it, like because I've kind of made it a habit to rewatch this every Halloween now. But I forget what year it was, a couple years ago. But Paranorman from Leica's animation studio. I just the more I watch Paranorman, the more I'm actually surprised it got made. Because it just seems like such a movie that would be a hard sell to audiences. Because it's like, it's not... I wouldn't say Paranorman is like 100% child-friendly. But at the same time, it's like stop motion, which I'm sure many parents are like, oh, it's just a dumb cartoon, whatever. And, you know, that whole debacle at the ending. Conservative.
It's not even a debacle, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Conservative groups made it into one. But I don't know. I really love Paranorman, and it basically the whole plot conceit of the movie is this boy Norman who has the ability to see ghosts, gets kind of caught up in this witch's curse that's going to destroy his town. Something like that.
Jesus God, JD.
Why don't you do the descriptions now?
Well, because I'm not going to step on your lines, but I mean,
I'll leave those to you now.
I don't know. You just don't sound like you sound like you're almost pained when you have to do them.
I don't like doing things.
But Paranorman, JD kind of glossed over, but that's the plot of the movie is kind of like he said. Norman's this boy who loves horror. He's the weird kid at school. He loves horror movies. He loves, all that paranormal stuff, and a big part of that is because he can see the dead, which is kind of, sounds morbid, but they kind of put this sweet sort of spin on it where he's actually hanging out with his grandmother.
Oh yeah, his dead grandma's spirit lives in the house with them.
She's just hanging out with him, watching horror movies,
talking shit about his dad.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just really it. I think that's how it kind of passed, because it almost kind of puts death into sort of a lighter tone than a lot of...
Yeah, because in the beginning of the movie, he's just walking down the street, and all these ghosts are just, saying good morning to him. It's just an everyday thing.
Well, yeah, and he's crossing by ghosts who clearly have had awful deaths. There's, a guy with broken legs from a parachute not opening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of morbid stuff, but
the dog cut in half was probably
it chases his own butt.
Yeah, and I thought that was it these things that would normally be horrific to put in a kids movie, but it's done after the fact, and it's done so
it's very charming.
It is, because like Kyle mentioned, there's a scene where Norman befriends the other kind of misfit at school, this fat kid. And I appreciated this character because they didn't try to turn him. They didn't try to make it I don't want to say he was a shitty character, but he was a goofy character. He was a pervert. He was watching his mom's exercise tapes, and that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
I love that so much.
I don't know. It felt like kids actually being kids. It kind of felt like I was watching Monster Squad. These aren't your... All the kids had, these weird quirks about them. The bully was, just a scumbag, voiced by McLovin. Yeah,
I love that's all we'll know Christopher Mintz-Plasse from.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Hey, he's made a pretty happy career out of it. But I was saying, he meets, Norman meets this fat kid at school who ends up being good friends with. Yeah, was his name Neil?
Neil.
Okay. And they hang out, and he explains how his dog was his pet dog was unfortunately taken from him because it was backed over by a pet ambulance or something like that. It was really sad and morbid, but then Norman sees the dog and it's cut in half, but it's happy.
Yeah.
The dog isn't this depressed, it's chasing its own it's chasing its tail on its other half of its body.
Which is adorable.
It's sniffing its butt.
Yeah, like, and you know, Norman's just telling Neil, yeah, he's happy. Like, he seems fine, and I don't know, like, just the way it portrayed death and everything was really, like you said, charming. It didn't come off as, like, sick and morbid and depraved.
Yeah, and I really do love Neil and Norman's relationship, because it's just like...
I love Norman as just a protagonist, because he's like that awkward kid, but he just felt like a normal kid. With, like, he got thrusted into this weird situation, but he's kind of learned how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Make the best of that situation.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the whole moral of the story at the end there.
And, like, sister's kind of a jerk, but she has her own reasons for... They develop, like, this is, I think, the gold standard for developing all your characters in a movie.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, even though his sister is kind of like... She's very quick to throw him under the bus, Norman under the bus.
But I mean, maybe it's because I'm the youngest of three. I kind of know what that's like.
It's very much like, because Norman goes missing, and his sister comes looking for him and goes to Neil's house, and his older brother is this giant meathead.
Oh, Butch?
But I think Mitch.
Oh, I thought it was Butch. I'm sorry. I was thinking of something.
Yeah, he's this giant meathead football player looking guy. And, like, the second she sees him, she just, like, goes into, cliche teenage girl mode. And she's like, oh no, my brother's the worst. He just kind of ran off. It's like, he's so horrible. But I especially love Mitch and Neil's relationship because... Like,
oh, it's funny. It's pretty much spot
on.
Neil,
how buddy, have you seen Norman? It's like, it's not like, you'd be so... Mitch himself is a great character because when you first meet him, you just look at him and assume that, like, oh, he's going to be like this really asshole. He's going to be kind of a bully character. Like, he's going to be the really asshole-ish big brother. He's going to pick on his little brother. No, he fucking loves his little brother. And, like, they get along really well.
He was a very responsible character in the most sense. He was kind of a lunkhead, but he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't a typical, like, jock dickhead. He was he actually went out to help find Norman. He wanted to help. Yeah, that's one thing that movie really did was it destroyed a lot of cliches.
Yeah, and Kyle and I talked about it back in the LGBT episode, but I still love how, if you haven't seen Paranormal, spoilers, whatever. But at the end of the movie, Mitch is revealed to be gay, which is why he was pretty much oblivious to Norman's sister the entire movie, which makes it for actually a kind of really funny joke. But
the reveal was
was brilliant. Like, I knew it was coming because someone spoiled it for me, but even then, it was just I love it so much. But it like you're saying, it breaks a lot of cliche. Is that you would not assume from all Mitch's actions through the entire movie or how he was designed that he would be gay. and the thing is, they don't even make a big deal about it.
No, it is so matter of fact. It's just like, oh yeah, he's gay. Yeah,
and I love that. I love like I said in the other podcast. I love that they left that detail to the very last second because so many characters who are gay that if you know that up front, you're only going to see them as gay. But
it's their only personality trait.
Right.
That's what a lot of people fuck up.
But leaving it to the last second, you get to know Mitch as a character, and form your own opinion before you learn that about him.
Well, he's not the gay character. He is Mitch. He is a character. He also happens to be gay.
Right.
But it's like, that's one of the big qualms I always have when people talk about representation. I want to know, like when we were talking about Gen Z in a couple episodes back, like, is this character that's very flaunty with their transgenderedness, or like if a character is flaunting their different sexuality or what they represent, is that the positive representation you want? Mm-hmm. Like and I think Mitch does a perfect job as a character. Like, yeah, he's gay. He's a gay guy. He's a big buff gay guy, but he doesn't have like the lisp. He doesn't shriek like a girl when something scares him. He is just literally a gay guy.
Yeah.
But you don't look at him and judge your character, as you said. And can I just say one thing though about this movie? I love the fact that they had an Evil Dead reference in there, an Army of Darkness reference in particular.
There's a lot of like old like.
As a horror fan, I was loving every second of it. But that was the one that stood out to me, just because.
Please explain.
There is a scene in the movie after the zombies come to town, because there are zombies in this movie.
I want to talk about the zombies in a minute, but do go on.
But there's a scene in the movie where the zombies come to town, and the townspeople start to band together to fight off the zombies, and Alex Borstein, I believe, is playing this big, kind of haggish, like, school teacher? I think she was a school teacher. But she's leading the charge against the zombies, if I remember right, and she says, "Cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war."
Oh, is that what that's from?
And, well, that's where I know it from, because in Army of Darkness, when Bad Ash is about to... they're about to assault the castle in the Army of Darkness, that's where I know that line from, and I would have to assume with the horror theme.
I assume that's probably where they got it from.
Cry havoc and let's slip the dogs of war, and it's just so funny.
It says it's from
it's a Shakespeare. It's a Shakespeare. Yeah. Okay.
But still, I'm sure that's what they were aiming.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they said, "Hey, let's put an Army of Darkness quote in there because who doesn't love that movie?"
Right.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk about the zombie characters, because, like we were saying, basically this entire movie kind of takes a bunch of old tropes and kind of flips it a little bit, because basically...
It flat out inverts them at points.
Yeah, and you're basically expecting... basically, the zombies of these old pilgrims rise from the dead and start infesting the town, and you find out they're not really the bad guys. Like, they're not even that scary.
They're really... The crazy thing is, if you look at the movie as a whole, because I wanted to talk about that too, there isn't really... The whole movie seems to be about redemption.
Yeah.
Like, even the villain, the witch, isn't really...
She's really not... And I
the bad guy.
I do love how... the whole theme of, like, Norman coming to terms with what he is, and,
Oh, that ending.
And how society deals with him. And basically having to pass that lesson on to the villain, so, she kind of learns, the error of her ways, so to speak.
That confrontation towards the end, because the big thing about the movie is that Norman basically has to confront this spirit of a girl who was wrongly murdered.
During a witch trial.
Put to death during a witch trial, and she's the reason the witch's curse happens. There's a really interesting story behind it, and that's where the zombies come from, and the zombies are the people who put her to death, and...
So she's forced them to, like, never be able to die. So
like, they're forced to basically relive. Like, it's really deep stuff, but the confrontation at the end between Norman and the witch is... It's so deep.
It's very touching.
It really is. Like, I'll admit, I kind of got the feels.
Yeah, Norman's basically going on to her, it's like, look, I understand that they hurt you, but, like, hurting them back isn't going to make things better. And
it doesn't come off as, like, ham-fisted. Like,
no,
it's Norman,
very... This entire movie is very genuine with what it does.
Yeah, like, it's a genuine love letter to, like, horror fans, to people who just like the paranormal, to people who like animation. I love that. I watched that movie during an overnight when I was working at the house I used to work at, and the movie hit me. I don't know if it's because I was also running out of very little sleep, but the movie hit me like 3 times as hard, I think. And I don't know. I just really, really loved that movie. I ended up watching it like 2 more times that week.
That's awesome.
Because I just was like, wow. And I kept telling everybody after I watched it, like, you guys see this movie?
Yeah, as soon as I
watch this movie.
I unfortunately did not go see this in theaters.
I wish I did.
I really wish I did. But as soon as I finished watching it, I had to make sure we've shown this to friends who have fallen in love with it. Just anyone who will listen, like around Halloween, like just please watch this.
The ending credits are amazing too.
Oh, I love the whole stuff, the whole like.
Like
art
Kyle,
style.
you're kind of breaking up a little. Well, no, he's also breaking up. There you are. You're good. Okay,
Okay.
You're good. You're good.
That was my first date movie, I think.
That's
Wow.
adorable.
It's a hell of a date movie.
Yeah, but I remember when the movie first came out, a lot of the animation people were like, "Oh my god, motion smears! This is a first for stop motion." And I think it was only in the witch scene where she's all freaking out and shit.
Yeah, that witch scene had a lot of crazy effects to it, like the lightning, the lighting, and everything was different too.
Yeah.
That witch scene really pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, if there's anything I can give Leica credit for, if any, I mean, it's that they can do so much with stop motion now that I almost feel like you could have made Paranorman in 3D.
I don't think it would have had the same appeal.
It wouldn't have the same appeal. I think it appeals more because
It's
it
a lot-
is stop motion. But
It's a lot of charm to it,
Right.
that way.
yeah, it has a more organic feel. But I love the stuff they can pull off in stop motion now. That you can almost like a lot of the stuff they're like a lot of stuff you'd have to do in 3D, but they can do with puppets, which is kind of amazing actually.
Like, I really feel like, you were talking about how people think, like, Tim Burton was the only one who could do stop motion. I think Paranorman is a really good example of, like, Leica in general is a really good example of a company that has their own, because I personally can't look at Paranorman and go like, oh, Tim Burton clearly did this.
Yeah.
Like, I look at it and be like, well, no, look how the eyes are, just look how the characters move.
Right.
Like, the design of the movie, because Leica does have a style, because if you look at Box Trolls and Paranorman and Coraline, Coraline, like they all have a very unique style to them that does not look anything like, in my opinion, Tim Burton's style, which has a very, like, look at Halloweeny compared to Nightmare Before Christmas, they look identical.
Almost, yeah.
Like, I mean, you could just look at it and be like, oh yeah, clearly it's the same guy, whereas I completely forgot Coraline was Leica.
Yeah. I mean, that was also Henry Selick, so
Yeah, that was a good movie too, of
Yeah.
course, based off of Neil Gaiman.
I need to rewatch Coraline. I haven't seen it in...
I really enjoyed it. That was a date movie for me and Shauna. We saw that, and then the next week we saw Punisher Warzone.
I'll round it out. Nightmare Before Christmas was a date movie for me, so
Oh, perfect.
there you go.
Not first date movie like Kyle here, but,
No. I will say, and this is like not even Halloween related, my first date movie, like first date I ever went on that was at a movie, was to fucking Over the Hedge.
How did that go?
We wanted to go see The Omen, but we were like fucking freshmen, so we couldn't get into an R-rated movie. It's like, what else is playing? Fine, DreamWorks, whatever.
At least it wasn't fucking Rio.
Honestly, I like Rio better than Over the Hedge.
Honestly, yeah, good thing you didn't see The Omen, because you should just watch the original if you're going to watch The Omen.
Yeah.
Don't watch the remake.
Great.
The original with Gregory Peck is superb.
Well, I think we're about to hit an hour here, guys, so is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up here?
I think overall, all three of these movies are... I mean, I would say Mad Monster Party is definitely, like, more of an oddity. Well, it's an oddity, I would say. Like, watch it if you like it. You know, I think it's pretty much down the middle, because obviously the movie's become a cult classic. Some people love this movie, love Mad Monster Party, and think it's like a tradition. Whereas, you know, obviously we didn't really feel that way. Whereas Paranorman...
I didn't watch it, so...
I mean, if you get a chance to, I'd say check it out, but only
Yeah.
if you're like... I don't think you need to, like, pull out all the stops and make sure you see it.
Sure.
Whereas...
I'm gonna be honest. I fucking skipped through the whole chase scene and everything.
I
Like-
had to really steel my nerves to make it through it. It was starting to become a struggle. Whereas Nightmare Before Christmas and Paranorman, like I think those are. I think Paranorman is honestly like the first movie to ever really kind of reach that level of sort of iconicism that Nightmare Before Christmas had, at least to me.
I'd say that's fair.
I mean, both movies dealt with kind of morbidity. They kind of dealt with, I don't want to say the occult per se, but, they dealt with darker tones, and they kind of made light of the macabre.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
So I think all these are worth watching. I would definitely say, though, Nightmare Before Christmas, if you haven't seen it, I don't know how. But if you have been passing on Paranorman at any point, please, for the love of God, watch it. I think ABC plays it sometimes.
Yeah, I think ABC Family probably plays it.
Yeah, and it's totally worth watching from start to finish. There is no reason not to watch Paranorman.
Yeah, so ringing endorsements for all. But yeah, that's I think that's a good collection of stuff you could watch this Halloween if you're into stop motion, which, why wouldn't you be? So
stop motion is pretty great, and it's just been getting better, especially if you watch these movies in sequence.
Yeah,
You'll really see some craziness. You go from the kind of herky-jerkiness of Mad Monster Party to how fluid and intricate Paranorman is.
Right.
I think that's cool, too, because, is that one of the first things that they did 3D printing for their figures?
I think so. Actually, when I went up to that Ottawa Animation Festival, Leica was doing actually did a little presentation on, I think it was box trolls. They were
yeah, I remember you were saying you gotta touch the models and shit, right?
Yeah, they had the box trolls models you can go up and touch. They had a whole box full of faces, so I got to play around with one of Norman's faces. They had Coraline in there too.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
man. Speaking on that, fuck, they did that giant auction, and I really wanted to get the Coraline mecha, but fuck.
Yeah, those
it's $1,200 or some shit. I can't drop that.
Those things are, those things have to be worth a fortune, because getting to hold them in your hands, the level of detail that goes into those is astounding.
Well, I mean, just watching the movie, it's insane to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you're looking for something to watch this Halloween, any of those would do great for you there. Well, thank you everybody for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Like we said at the beginning of the show, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it wherever you can. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're on all the social medias: Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, and those are linked in the description of the podcast video. Next week we'll be talking about more Halloween stuff. That's basically the theme of this entire month, so...
I wonder why.
Gee, I can only wonder. And... Shoot, I was going to say something else. I don't remember what it is now. Monday, Tuesday, whenever we get to it, news show. Providing there is actual news. No. We let the Fawn stay where he was. Yeah, so... I guess thanks everybody again, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
God, don't sound so sad.
I am sad.